Today I'm going to do another craft with you. This time we're going to do something pretty simple. You may have done this before. We are going to take some small paper bags, old school lunch bags. I don't know if anyone keeps those in their house or not, but I still do. So we're going to make some simple paper bag puppets. I'm really excited because you can make tons of different things with these paper bag puppets. All kinds of animals, creatures, people. And then you've got your whole little army for a puppet show. So let's get started.
So this is the sample of what we're making today, our puppet. You'll need a paper bag, construction paper, glue, crayons, scissors, and maybe tape.
Okay, so we're going to start with our paper bag. As you can see, size-wise, it's a small paper bag, right? So lunch bag. And we are going to make a bear. So I'm going to take this brown sheet of construction paper and I want to make sure that it is the correct size. So this portion right here, this is where we're going to put the face. So we want the oval for the head to be a little bit bigger. So it's going to go right here and we want it to overlap so you don't see any of that bag underneath. So in order to figure that out, what I'm going to do is put this piece of paper on top of the bag, fold it over, and that looks to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to make that even more. So hopefully you can kind of see that. See, this is a little bit wider. We'll go ahead and cut along that line. I'll save that big piece for later. So this is the part that we'll use for the head. And obviously it's a lot wider than the bag. We don't necessarily need that big of a head. So let's see. It goes off a little bit here. We'll kind of try to get that same measurement on the other side. So figure out about how much we need to cut off. And the head will not end up being a rectangle, but we're going to just get that shape, or get that size rather, first. So, okay, so now you can see that fits on there pretty well. I can't see that anymore. And instead of cutting a big oval, we'll kind of just round those corners. See. Yes. Oh, that's pretty close. So it just about covers those corners. Cutting it close there. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and glue this down. So make sure to get the edges. And all in here. Okay. I'll put the glue on the bag instead of the head because we definitely want to make sure not to glue this down to this part of the bag, right? So you can see here, and there's a little bit of glue showing, but mostly we don't want glue there because we don't want that to stick. Okay, so we got the bear's head. Now, let's give the bear some facial features. Okay, so it's going to set this aside a little bit. We're going to take a white sheet of paper and we'll kind of keep it next to the bear so we get an idea. But let's do some, I'll give him some kind of big eyes. So a circle. And then if you want to make sure you get the same size, what you can do is just fold this over. And make sure when you're cutting it that you hold this together. So you're cutting out two pieces at one time. This sometimes can be a little tricky, but it's a really good way to make sure that you get two pieces of paper that are the same shape and size. I'm struggling a little bit, so let's get rid of that. Now right now we've still got that fold that's holding these pieces of paper together a little better. Ta-da! Okay, so let's glue these on. And you might have, like, see, this one still has a little bit of pencil on here. So let's put the glue on that side. That way we don't see the pencil. Remember, you don't really need a lot of glue because, as you can see, it squeezes out the side a little bit. So start with a little. That's usually pretty good, especially when we're just working with paper. Okay, how about now we will use a piece of black construction paper for the nose. So we have this huge sheet, and sometimes that's hard to kind of hold the whole sheet while we're working. So let's just cut out a little square, set this aside, and I think I can use this crayon and that will show up a little bit better. So we'll just draw an oval, kind of around the same size as the eyes, maybe a little bit bigger. Cut along that line. And again, when we go to glue it, you'll put the glue on the side where you drew. That way we don't see that part, because we don't need to see that. That's just so we can figure out where to cut. So let's put a little glue, just a little bit. Boop, there's our nose. So in this next step, we'll give our bear some ears. So we're going to take that brown piece of paper that we had before, and let's see, we want to make sure they're bigger than the eyes. Let's go ahead and fold that, kind of measure on this part. That looks pretty good. So again, we're just going to cut a smaller piece of paper. That way we don't have this big sheet of paper that's in the way. Sometimes that can be hard to work around. Okay, now I'm going to fold this over again. See where that is? And then we don't need this part, so I'm going to cut that off. Set that aside because we might use that later. It's good to hang on to the scraps. Okay, so again, we've got the folded piece of paper. I'm going to kind of set that here so you have an idea. And I'll draw with my pencil, and now so you can see it, I'm going to draw over that pencil line with my marker. Okay. Now again, so we want 2 ears. We're going to hold these 2 pieces of paper together while we cut. All right, so we are going to go ahead and glue these on. Now, because this is sticking off the head, we don't want to put glue all over the back of the ear, because then you're going to have a bunch of glue that'll not be used for anything. It'll just be messy. So we'll put a little bit of glue here on the corner and then stick that ear down. Oh, see, that's squeezing out. But sometimes if we don't have it, you definitely want it all along the edge, so you can put a little dot. Okay. And we'll do the same thing on this side. Put a little glue. And I'll put that ear on there. Okay, cool. Let's see. What shall our next step be? A piece of pink construction paper. Again, I just need some small pieces. We're going to use this for the inner ears, and we can use this for the tongue too. We'll get back to that part though. First, we'll start with the ear. So let's see. I'm going to put this on top of the ear so I can see while I'm folding it. Right? Okay. See how that's around the same size? I'm a little smaller, so it fits in there. Okay, so let's cut off this big piece we don't need anymore. Set that over here. Again, we got our 2 pieces of paper. We're 1 folded piece of paper. That's about to be 2 pieces of paper. So we want that to be the same shape as the ear. So a big kind of half circle. As you're cutting, try to keep your scraps in a neat little pile because they get messy and it'll make it much easier to clean up later. Okay, so we're going to add these here. This time we can put the glue on here because this is the smaller piece. So put the glue on here and that way it's not all over the ear and messy. Okay, looking good. Now, for our next step, we will do the mouth. So for the mouth, we want the inside of the mouth to be red. So we're going to take a piece of construction paper. I want you to flip open the bag. Go ahead and set that there. So now you see, and what we're going to do this time is trace around the head. Okay? So take your pencil, trace around the head here. Now set our bear aside. Now you can't really see this, so I'm going to draw again with Sharpie. You don't need to use Sharpie. You can use any black marker that you have or a dark marker, something that shows up. Okay. This is the same size, or actually it's a little bigger because we traced around it, right? So what we want to do is make it a little bit smaller. So go ahead and draw another line inside of that. Leave some space in between the lines. And that's the line we're going to cut off. Set our big piece of paper aside. Okay. So remember, this is the side that has some of the Sharpie showing. That's the side that we're going to put the glue on. So go ahead and do. Remember, you don't need a lot, but make sure you get it kind of all over. So you don't want one part sticking and the other part not. Flip open the head and take that edge, the not rounded edge, right up underneath there. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now we need a tongue for the bear. Remember this piece of paper? Okay. Let's see. Let's do the same thing here. We kind of trace. So we know, I'm going to use the marker. We don't want it to go past the mouth. So let's go ahead and mark that line so we know that the paper, we'll just use this side of the paper. And we're going to make a little half oval like that. Let's cut this. Again, this is the smaller piece, and we're going to use the side where the Sharpie's showing. A little bit of glue. It's coming along. Now we're going to add some arms, legs, and the belly. So we'll get this brown piece of paper out again. And the arms and legs can be all the same. So what we're going to do is take this, fold it in half. And I'm sure your size paper might be bigger or smaller than mine. So you might need another sheet of paper. Just kind of figure it out as we go. And yes, those are my dogs barking. Okay, so right now, see, that would be like the one size of the arm. And that's pretty big. We don't need it to be that big because that's like the whole body. So what I'm gonna do is say, let's see, let's go about halfway, half of the body. This is still folded, so now I've got what's gonna end up being 4 sheets. So cut it across and set that aside. We've got these 4, right? Okay, so fold it back up. Whoop. Keep it folded. And okay, the other thing to remember when you're doing this is you want to make sure when you're done that the pieces aren't still folded together. So if your line is right along the fold and you're not really cutting that, sometimes they will stick together. Just a little note. And voila. So we are going to add these here and at the bottom. So first we'll add the arms. What I want you to do is we're going to glue it under here. So now it's going to look like this. Okay. So kind of tuck it in and put it sideways like this. Unfold that section. Add a little bit of glue here. This part is probably the trickiest part. It's okay to glue these on top too if you don't want to do them on the side of the body like that. You can always glue it right on top. I just like the way it looks when part of the arm is kind of hidden. It's tucked in there. So again, we'll do the same thing on this side. I've got the arm tucked in. And we know that this part right here is going to end up on top of the arm. So glue that down. Ta-da! Well, I'm going to move that one a little bit while I can. Okay. Now we'll add the feet. And we're going to do something similar. If your hand goes this way in the front, and is inside the bag like this, we are going to glue the legs to the back. So this time we'll add just a line of glue to the top of the legs rather. Open the bag. Make sure you don't get that part too. Glue that down. And glue it down on that side. Try to make sure they're the same length if you can. Okay. And then the last piece of construction paper we'll add will be a white piece. Oh, that's funny. We made a heart by accident. It's a happy accident. Okay, so you see where we had that fold before. That's a pretty good size. So I'm going to take this sheet of paper, and if your paper is bigger than this, no problem. And if it's a little smaller, that's okay too. So we just want the belly to take up a good amount of this space, not all of it. So let's draw an oval. Okay, mine's a little wonky. So we drew that oval. Actually, I forgot. We don't need these 2 pieces of paper this time. So let's go ahead and cut that off. I'm going to shave that down a little bit because I made that a little bit wider than I wanted to. So I'm going a little outside the lines here. Let's do what makes sense to you. Okay. Now make sure you go around the edges. Do a big swirly. We're going to cover that little bit of wording at the bottom here. Okay. Our next step is going to be drawing on the bear. Okay, so for the last part, we're going to add some details. So let's go ahead and use our marker, draw some pupils. He looks a little scared, or she. whatever you decide. And actually, he or she, let's put some little eyelashes on there on our bear. Now, draw a line straight down and maybe a couple dots to show where the whiskers usually kind of go. I'm going to give my bear a little line under the eye too. I just like to add those little details. Also going to add some lines to show the paws a little better. And I'm gonna actually make that a little bit rounded. And if you want, you can make your bear smiling. Oh, you know what? Very important. We need eyebrows. And if you decide you want to add something else, a bow tie, some clothes. And now you have your finished paper bag puppet. Let's try it out. Looking good, don't you think? So, I also am going to show you a few examples right after I say goodbye of some other paper bag puppets that I've made, just to give you some ideas of how many different things you can do. If you have a specific question of one that you would like for me to make, if you have some ideas, or you have a drawing of that you love and you want to turn it into a puppet, send it my way and we'll see what we can make together. Until next time, bye!